Shalom, shalom, and welcome to the Ways of Israel. This is Rabbi Moshe Otero, and we're going to continue our study through Faith Strengthened. Faith Strengthened. In these trying times, of those of you that need some faith strengthened, join us in this series. Although this is directed to many of my fellow clergies who are involved in Christian Messianic movement, because we're trying to explain the reason why we Jews don't believe in Jesus and why actually you should neither. And there are reasons, biblical reasons, why we don't hold to Jesus, not just because we rejected them or we rejected the Messiah, all of this nonsense. There are actual biblical reasons why we discarded Jesus as a Messiah figure in our history. He was, yes, a potential Messiah, but he was rejected. He was not accepted. He didn't meet the standards. So responding to this, we're going to take a look at, in this morning, very briefly, passages that normally Christians utilize to indicate that they have it right, that their belief of the Trinity, for example, is correct. It's based on Genesis 1:1. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. The word here, beginning, as we know, is Elohim, ending in a plural form, although it meant gods. It has been interpreted by Christians as an evidence of plurality in the deity consisting of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost, who are denominated as the Trinity. Our view of the term Elohim is as follows. Listen very closely. This is very important. Those who are conversant in Hebrew language are aware that Elohim relates not only merely to the supreme being, but also angels and human authorities. Manoah, the father of Samson, mentioned in Judges chapter 13, verse 22, and after he found that he had perceived an angel of the Lord, quote unquote, said, "We shall surely die, for we have seen Elohim." In reference to human authorities, we read in Exodus chapter 22, verse 9, and behold, what do we read? Before Elohim, in other words, judges, the cause of two men shall be brought, and he whom the Elohim judges will declare guilty shall pay twofold unto his neighbor. Having thus shown the word Elohim bears various interpretations, it is perfectly out of question to refer it to the verse of Genesis, to the plurality of persons in the deity, of which assumption no corroboration whatever is given in our revelation. We should likewise understand how the name Elohim, given by God to Moses in Exodus chapter 7, verse 1, in the words, "Behold, I have made thee an Elohim unto Pharaoh," can be allowed by Christians expounders to allude to the plurality of persons and represent a mortal creature, a visible Trinity. Very, very important point. Suppose, for the argument's sake, Elohim does allude to a plurality of persons. How could the occurrence of Elohah, the singular form of Elohim, be justified? And here we have a very important point. Thus, we find in Deuteronomy 32, verse 15, "And he forsook Elohah, God who made him." And in Psalms chapter 1, verse 22, "Ye who forget Elohah, God," again, how can that advocates the existence of a Trinity account for the alternate employment of Elohim and Elohah? See Isaiah also chapter 44, verse 6, "And besides me there is no Elohim." Interesting enough, in verse 8 we read, "Is there an Elohah besides me?" If the truth of the doctrine of the Trinity depends on the term Elohim, the word Elohah must decidedly disprove it, since it renders the allusion to a plurality perfectly unnecessary. The real object in the plural form of Elohim is to represent authority and power. The genius of the Hebrew language admits the particularity not merely in Elohim, but in the words of profane signification. Thus it's used in Adonim, lords, instead of Adon, Lord. For instance, in Isaiah chapter 19, verse 4, "In the hands of a hard Adonim," which is the literal lords. And also in Genesis chapter 39, verse 20, and Adonai, lords, instead of Adon, Lord, took him, referring to Joseph. And in Exodus chapter 21, if Be'alav, his master, is with him. The plural form is used instead of a singular in many modern languages. For instance, you instead of thou. And here we'll find more arguments in the continuing series of Faith Strengthened. So we don't hold that chapter 1, verse 1 refers necessarily to a Trinity, but rather to, as just mentioned, God in a plural form, but one in essence. This is only one God. We're going to look at other passages that refers to when it says, let us make God in our image in our next video. So here we're looking at Genesis chapter 1, verse 1, that does not refer to the Trinity, rather to the aspect of Elohai, one God. We'll continue this series in our next video. Shalom, shalom.